I just wanted to do this interview with you. I know you were surprised in the beginning, but it's like I have you, I think, on half of my CDs,
Yeah, that's cool.
and I wanted to play with you for such a long time, and I played with everyone who played with you, but never with you. So it's kind of like shit. At least I had to talk with him.
I think we tried once, right? I think
We tried once, yeah,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
we can try again someday.
post-corona thing, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the situation's gonna get better. So,
yeah.
and I spoke to like all these guys you play with, like last week with Ben Allison and Chris Lightcap and Rez, and all these guys, and I'm like, damn, you're like, I listened to all the discographies of all these players, and I was like, damn, Mike is on every record.
Yeah, well,
I mean, on almost all the records of these players. So I was like, okay, I would love to talk with him. So I'm really happy we're doing that. So
cool.
yeah, and I just like to start this like with one question. I listened a lot now recently to Django-Shift, this record that Rez Abbasi did, and then I listen. I had like Mike Sarin days these days. I listened to everything to the '90s records with Dave Douglas and Thomas Chapin records and all that, and you still sound as fresh and killing on this new one. And I just wanted to ask you first. I didn't ask Rez that, but where did you meet Rez, and how did you guys hook up for this project?
I think I met Rez teaching at a summer jazz workshop up in Maine called the Maine Jazz Camp.
Oh yeah, that one. Oh, okay, yeah, no.
And I've been teaching there for 20, I think the first year I taught there was 1999.
Oh, okay.
And it's headed by Christine Correa, who's a great vocalist, and her husband, Frank Carlberg,
Oh yeah, exactly.
great pianist, Finnish pianist who's been in
Yeah,
America for a long time, and they're old friends of mine. And so I started teaching there then, and it's just in the summer. It's in July, and Rez was there one year, maybe more than one year, but I think that was the first time that
yeah,
I met him. And that was a while ago.
yeah.
Now, this is the first recording though that I've done with.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I
That's
think
why.
so.
Yeah, yeah. And I haven't seen it. I checked the records, and I was like, nah.
I
But
I subbed for people in his bands like occasionally,
for
which
the
was all
Quintet.
yeah. So
Okay.
like usually for Dan, which was always very daunting because I don't play really anything like that. I mean, I understand what's going on, but as far as
But
being able to
how was
navigate,
that for you playing that music? I
it
mean,
was it was remarkably uncomfortable.
yikes. Yeah, because those tunes are like
Yeah, no,
snakes,
I
right?
mean it's another amazing thing, and Dan is so amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
So I just try to kind of hold the fort and throw in what I can throw in. It's going to be different.
yeah, definitely.
Uh, but this Django Shift was something completely different. So
Yeah, but he did like Django tunes, right? And did you know this music? I mean, did you like also listen to the originals or not really? Or
yeah, I mean some of those tunes I knew already from listening to Django.
yeah,
And then the ones that I didn't, when Rez said, these are the ones that we're going to do, I listened to just as source material.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Even
cool.
though, for the most part, it sounds fairly
It's
transfigured.
completely different. Yeah,
Yeah. There are a couple
yeah,
of tunes that you can, like the ballads that you really hear
yeah, yeah,
the deep
definitely. Yeah,
melodies and
yeah.
yeah.
Quite cool. I also checked today. There's a really cool footage. I don't know if you saw that. Like pre-Corona lockdown, you were on tour with Anna Weber and Max Johnson.
Yeah.
And there's amazing footage from you guys from Linz today. I checked it out, and you're killing it, and like really amazing. Like I think it's like 3 days or 4 days before the lockdown here in
I
this
think
part of
that
Europe.
I think that was I think that
Galerie
might have been the
Merz.
last gig of that
Oh,
of
wow.
that of that tour. We managed to do that tour, and we were supposed to finish in Italy, and also record in Italy, but that got taken off before even that tour started. Like we knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, like, I don't know if you count the records on how many records you are on, right? Do you keep a list of that or no? Just
I had it somewhere. I had the whole list up on a website that I had, and then but the website is gone.
yeah, because I'm really curious, you know.
I am too. I have this list somewhere that I made for the website, and I think I typed it up, and now I can't find it. It was on the website, but they just erased, like the website company went out of business. It was like one of those template kind of like I just went to look at my website one day and it was gone. And I was like, what? Like somebody else had my domain name.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, I saw that there's like, if you type in like electric bikes or something, like I checked.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite bizarre.
So anyway, no, I think I did at one time have a
I would love to see that, because I wanted to ask you, like, how do you, since you've done so much work, like in the last 30 years or even more, how do you adapt to these situations? Let's say people call you, like, you know, I listened to Django-Shift and let's say to this trio with Anna Weber and Max Johnson. How do you adapt to a situation like that? You always sound yourself, but you somehow kind of, whatever you play with David Krakauer or like really improvised stuff, you somehow know how to blend yourself in. I mean, do you listen to guys you play with? I mean, probably you know most of these guys already from New York, but how do you do that, like as a drummer?
Yeah, I mean, I think any musician that's not just doing their own music all the time, I think, which there are very few musicians like that, even in New York. I mean, people are always playing on other people's things. And as a rhythm section player, specifically a drummer or a bass player, you find yourself in a lot of different situations unless you specialize in one area.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a lot of interests. So part of it is just I like different kinds of music, and I never wanted to be pigeonholed into playing a certain way. I mean, I had opportunities to pursue professional life that would have been more like, for lack of a better, even though the work doesn't exist anymore, like a studio player where you play.
Oh yeah.
You know,
okay.
You're copying this thing for this and this for this. And in a sense, that's what we all do anyway. We kind of take the flavor of some music. Like, I don't know how to play authentic cumbia or something.
Okay, yeah.
I don't personally. Like, some people really delve deep in, learn how. But I like to hear the flavor of it and then have that somehow, like, find how I can bring that flavor to the moment. So there's some other moment that may have nothing to do with cumbia.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Or whatever. That's just an example. So I don't know. I think it's a willingness to. First of all, you have to be willing to adapt what you do or allow what you do to serve the greater music.
Yeah.
And in the sense of, if it's a band leader and it's their music, you're always a little bit deferring to their vision.
Yeah.
Which I've been very lucky. I've been able to play with a lot of great band leaders and composers, but it's never, you're always attenuating what you do a little bit for the specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you like I don't know, when I play like with really amazing drummers, like, I don't know, Gerald, Cleaver, or Tom, Rainey, or I don't know, Tyshawn, or these guys, I never told them what to play. Like, I don't know, for me it's always like, rhythm wise, I'm like, drums are there, and then like the rest of instruments regarding rhythm, because you got what you guys do all, that's beyond me. I do just that. So, but anyway, like, I never try to tell the drummers what to play, do you prefer that people tell you where they want to go, or do you prefer the situations where you're just like, okay, I can?
I prefer not to be told what
Okay, yeah,
unless I really like I just don't have an idea of what is, what somebody is looking
yeah,
for. Then I'll ask, but I would rather be given the chance to find something. And I think most of the people that I play with know that, so they don't really say,
that's what they
or
call
they
you, of
have
course,
told me
right?
that they find out pretty quickly that I don't respond very well to that.
Yeah, yeah,
Not by
okay.
being a jerk, but just
No, no,
it
yeah,
just kind of like closes me down. Um, because then you start to impose, at least for me,
mhm,
then I start to impose a way I think I should be playing. And then you're outside of yourself already. So
definitely.
that's for myself, that's what happens. So I prefer to find something for myself. And most people that are gonna use me know that know my personality. So they're gonna go, yeah, he'll find whatever. Just like you said with those
Yeah,
great drummers.
yeah,
What are you going to tell, Gerald? What are you going to tell Gerald? I mean, he's going to come up with some great Gerald stuff, you know?
yeah. He's gonna play something I will not even get what he's
Yeah,
playing, So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
exactly.
beauty of it. You get this
Yeah, yeah,
personality, and that helps create this moment of music that's only going to happen that way at that time because of those people that are doing it.
yeah.
You know.
So that's probably life. Like, how do you see studio situations? I want to ask you that. Like compared to life, for instance, since we're talking about, you said like creating a really nice moment. Like, how do you find the studio recordings of jazz in this sense? I sometimes think about that. You record, you write a composition and you record this song, and then you're like, okay, you're gonna make it once and forever, at least on a record. Uh, and live, it's gonna be a completely different animal. Like, how do you see recording improvised music? Like, as
Well,
philosophically, for
before I
instance.
answer that, let me ask you, as a leader and
Yeah,
somebody that maybe composed some
yeah,
framework for our improvisation. How do you approach it? Do you feel like,
yeah. Well, for
yeah,
for me,
what are
it's
you
like,
concentrating on as an end result?
yeah. I mean, I love to document. Since I write music, I love to record it, and then just because for me it's like writing a novel, so that I finish it. It's like a chapter in
Yeah.
that year or something like that. But then when you go to play this music live, or if you played it before, sometimes I'm like, damn, you know, we have that, but it could have been developed different. So that's why for me it's recordings are sometimes really like, especially for improvised stuff, you listen to, I don't know, I listened the other day to Evan Parker and with Paul Litton, I think, and uh, I was like, yeah, it's a record, it's really good, free concert, but it's just this once improvised moment that was caught, and like that's why I mean, like when playing drums, sometimes you play differently, I guess, or any impro, and recording it, it's for me sometimes really, you know,
I think if you're going to record, I think you have to be clear on, or the leader or the people
yeah,
recording have to be clear on what they are trying to accomplish, right? So if you want to just document this group of musicians playing these tunes or whatever, these
material, yeah,
compositions, then um, yeah, you can either say, okay, this is, as long as the written material, you want to make sure that gets across and is not
yeah,
completely messed up, or
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you want to have that, and you want to make sure that you feel like you get a coherent improvised statement from the people. It's going to be different every time
Yeah, I know. That's
because
why.
it's that kind of music. That's the nature of the music. So you have to live with
Quite bizarre, right?
what
If
it
you think about it.
is. Well, it is because you're capturing an improvised moment, and then freezing it, and then
Yeah,
putting it under a microscope,
yeah,
which we all have done listening to these amazing recordings over the years. It's the same thing. I mean,
yeah,
we hold that as like the gospel, but that was just one performance of, a live version of, Freedom Jazz Dance or something. But I think when you're in the studio doing it, you put it under the microscope in a different way than you do as a listener. So you have to be careful I think you have to be careful not to suck all the life out of it by doing like, okay, let's do another take of that, I mean, I don't like that when people do a million takes of the same thing.
What's the most takes you've done in a studio? Do you remember? I mean, just out of curiosity.
I don't know. Anything over, to me, anything over 3 is.
Okay.
But I've done ones that are over like, over 6, like full takes of.
With impros and everything.
Yeah, and I know people that I really respect as musicians and with whom I play that feel like the more takes you do, the better it gets.
Oh, wow.
I personally, for myself, I disagree.
Yeah, me too.
I think the more I do, the worse it gets, because then I start editing myself. I said, I played that last time. I can't do that again.
Exactly.
Or that worked last time. Let me do that again.
All again, yeah.
And then, okay, that's fine. And if you're recording and you're doing a recording where you're just trying to get the best recording, like a pop performance, or for lack of a better, adjective, then it's different. But it just depends on how much in the moment you want to represent the recording. That's all.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's true. No, just sometimes think about it, because like with classical music, you have a composition, and basically you play it through. It's a play-through thing. Okay, with small details, you sometimes add more oregano and sometimes rosemary, I don't know, vibrato or less, whatever. But with jazz, it's always like, it's different. So that's for me always this thing of, especially with drums, because, it's such a different.
Well, that's part of it, the drum part in this kind of music that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This took me a long time. It took me quite a while to kind of come to terms with in the studio. Was that almost everyone else could like fix a part or something.
Yeah.
And I just had to live with the choices, that I made, whether they were, I listened back and was like, wow, I really put myself in a box there, or like, why did I do that? But I did at the time, and I can't really go back and change it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think in some ways that allowed me to just realize, this is the way I play, play right now at this time. And if there's something I don't like about it, then go to the practice room and start working on those things,
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you this, since we're talking about playing, like, how do you consider playing? When I listen to you, I sometimes hear almost like 2 drums. I don't know if I can explain this well, but like as if you have like different divisions of the drums, like as if the drums are an orchestra. That's how I hear it. Like you have violins, 1, 2, violas. Like, I don't know, as if you, how do you use the drums? You sometimes, I hear you like playing. Tom, for me, is the same, Rainey, in this vibe. That's why one of my favorite records is a Dope by Malaby. When you guys play together, it's
well,
but how do you approach your playing, let's say, because it's, in some groups it's conventional, like with David Krakauer, but usually when you're like, it's amazingly creative how you use sounds and everything. Like, how do you imagine this in your head, like a drum set? And
well, I think I was always drawn to drummers that, well, first of all, as when I started out, drummers that were pretty melodic, like what I could hear as melodic, where I could hear a little bit more clearly melodic fragments.
Who were these guys? Like,
well, when I say that, I'm thinking something like Max Roach and Ed Blackwell, and Al Foster, which is a separate discussion on Al Foster.
Oh, really?
Shelly Man.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Donald Bailey with Jimmy Smith. Like, there was a certain way those guys played very orchestrally and kind of melodically too. And that sort of appealed, that it just appeals to my own musical sense before, say, like it took me a while to get to Elvin Jones and stuff like that. Like I didn't really get that at first. Like I couldn't hear it, you know. It wasn't clear enough for me. So so leaping forward, when I got to New York and started to play with some of these composers that were composing these kind of through composed pieces that were using a lot of different kinds of compositional techniques, whether they were from classical, 20th century classical, and different Balkan influences, blah, blah, blah. You know, I was fortunate to play with the same people that this is where Tom Rainey features prominently, and that I would hear him play the same music that I played. And I was just blown away. Like, I still am. I mean, he's unbelievable. Like you know, there are many great players and many unsung, sort of under the radar great players, but he's could be at the top of the list of those.
Definitely.
You know, he's a master. He's really a master. And he, the way he orchestrates in that kind of music was, to me, like just amazing. Like, oh wow, okay, you can do that. You know, you don't have to just play the groove like that. And you know, so I learned a lot listening to him. Joey Barron, another master orchestrator.
But these guys are like a little older than you, right? A couple of years.
Those guys are older a little bit, and like a sub generation.
Sure.
You know, but then there's I think drummers of my age and younger have all kind of started to adapt that. Whether or not they play, their style is busy or less busy or whatever, you know, the drum set as a collection of instruments, I think is so prevalent, like now, that everyone knows that you're just not playing. You know, you have these cymbals, you have drums, you have, you know, all the different kinds of brushes and textures, and there's so much available there that you know.
I loved it.
And I learned a lot from watching other people, you know, too, just like how to get a sound. Oh, that's how you get that sound. I heard that on a record, but I didn't know that's how you did. And drums are so visual that you can do that. You know, I don't know how easy it is to watch someone's left hand on the guitar.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm always like,
right, you can do it. Oh, but
hearing the notes when they play.
I don't know how you can see that, but it seems like drums is a little easier to see. Like it's, you know. So there are a lot of great drummers, contemporaries of mine, and a little bit older and a little bit younger that I drew a lot of inspiration from, for sure.
But you're from the West Coast, right? Near Seattle, right?
Yeah.
But do you remember, like, when you were younger, like, what was, since we're talking about these influences or drummers you listened to, like, what was the trigger that you said, I want to play jazz? Or maybe drums in the beginning, like, but especially for jazz. You remember, like, there was like a moment you saw, I don't know, Gene Krupa or something.
Well, I grew up on an island that you take a ferry boat from this island, Bainbridge Island, to Seattle.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't grow up in Seattle. It was kind of a little bit of an insular scene there. And I didn't really have any jazz people around. I mean, one of my grandfathers played the saxophone.
Oh, wow.
Sort of amateur swing playing. But maybe once or twice a year, I'd see him play with his friends at a party. And they were playing kind of old swing, kind of trad jazz tunes. And it was, you know, I love that. And it was a lot of fun. I was like, these guys are having so much fun doing this, you know. but I think my mom had a few records, a handful of jazz records, but they were really good ones. I don't know how she came across them. It wasn't like she was listening to them every day, but she had them, and one of them that just like hit me was the Ray Charles live at Newport, 1957.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
And that was probably the first one that really hit me. That, and she also had Cannonball Adderley live at the Jazz Workshop.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was more jazzy, but those two, Teddy Wilson Trio and a Billie Holiday, whatever. So I think I was like 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
In the fourth grade, I took my Ray Charles record to school because it was a day where we were all going to get to share our records, favorite records.
Wow.
So I wanted to play something from that. And I love pop music too. I mean, I listen to the radio and stuff all the time. But this was like super special to me. Yeah. So I brought it and I put it on. It was my turn. I was like so psyched. I put it on. And I think it was The Right Time. I think it was that tune, The Right Time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
And everyone was like, "Oh, what is this?" Like,
sure, fourth grade. That's right.
Take this out. Now, mind you, my class, I didn't grow up with any African Americans, so there was no context. Like that's right. The Right Time is like a blues / church. There's like blues and gospel heavy. Yeah. So if you had grown up maybe in that environment and you had some context, you at least would have had some recognition of, oh yeah, this is this. But they were listening to AM pop radio. Yeah. I mean, they did listen to Elton John, which definitely had echoes of that, but they couldn't relate at all. And I sort of got my first taste of what it was gonna be like.
Oh man.
Not playing popular music,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was funny, but I just continued from there to.
But you played drums then at that time already, or?
No. I played piano.
Okay.
Took piano lessons and.
Oh, okay.
I think in the 5th grade, going into 6th grade, the 6th grade band teacher came to the school and asked what instruments we wanted to play in 6th grade.
Okay.
And do you know Andrew Drury, drummer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So he and I grew up together on Bainbridge Island.
Really? He's from there?
Yeah, we were best friends from like the 4th grade.
Seriously?
All the way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
A while ago, this record he did with Ingrid and Brandon Seabrook and all these guys. I don't know what's the name of it.
Yeah. Is Briggan on that?
I don't think so. I think it's Ingrid and Brandon and it's there. But okay. I listened to him the other day. Like I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew Drury and I both wanted to play drums. So we did a little audition where I think he tapped out some rhythms on us. We had to tap him out. Blah, blah. And he's like, okay, you guys can play drums. So that was really the beginning. Yeah. And then I didn't start playing drum set until probably between the 7th and 8th grade. I wanted to play drum set before that, but actually, no, I got a drum set out of the like a Sears catalog for Christmas when I was 7. Yikes. But it was a toy. It was like a toy. And I broke the heads really quickly because they were made out of paper.
Yeah.
And it didn't really have functioning pedals or anything. I don't think it had a hi-hat pedal. It had a bass drum pedal, but it sucked. So I played that for a little while and then just kind of gave it up. I was really into sports, so I was always playing sports.
All right.
But then between 7th and 8th grade, I got a real drum set, and Andrew Drury and I started taking drum lessons from the same guy in Seattle.
Oh wow!
So then from then on, that was it,
Yeah, but then you studied on the West Coast also, right? Jazz, or if I'm not mistaken.
Did I study?
You studied jazz also there, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I took drum lessons with this guy, Dave Coleman Sr.
But you didn't go to the university, or you went?
I went to 2 years at University of Washington.
Oh, okay.
And I was in the the music department. There was not a jazz department at the time. It's just music and playing percussion and I did play in a jazz, like the big band there and whatever. And then after 2 years, it was a 5-year program, and I was looking ahead at 3 more years, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I mean, in retrospect, I learned quite a bit from those 2 years that didn't have to do with what I do. I mean, didn't have to do with specifically with playing jazz drum set, but I learned a lot about, just.
And this was in Seattle, or
this was in Seattle? Yeah, University of Washington, which is a big university.
Oh, okay.
There.
So
which
then
now,
you kind of got
Kung Vu became the head of the jazz department there.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, I think he still is, but that's much later down the line. But then I stopped, and then just stayed in Seattle for another 4 years or so.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, the Seattle scene, it must have been like really strong back then, right? Like, because all these guys, like, I don't know, Briggan Krause and Chris Speed, Brad Shepik, I'm probably going to miss Andrew D'Angelo, I think. All the guys came from Seattle, right?
Yeah.
So did you already kind of form a scene there with these guys, or no?
Well, I was definitely the odd man. I mean, I was on Bainbridge Island, so I wasn't even in Seattle. Yeah. And most of those guys were in Seattle, but on the east side of Seattle, which is another kind of like a region of Seattle, right? Okay. So I didn't know any of those people. Oh. Although Andrew D'Angelo, I met one summer when I was 16. We both worked at the same restaurant in Seattle.
Okay, that's something.
So I met Andrew, but we never played together. We knew we were both musicians, but we never played. And then I didn't meet any of those guys until I met Brad Shepik.
Yeah. But that was still in Seattle.
Yeah, right when I left the University of Washington, he left. He had started going to school somewhere else in Washington State, came back to Seattle, and then decided to go to Cornish School of the Arts.
Yep.
And another friend of mine that I had just met, a bass player named John Silverman in Seattle, he also decided to switch from University of Washington to Cornish. Mm-hmm. So in retrospect, I should have just gone to school at Cornish. But I ended up spending all my time there. So
wow, okay, yeah.
So while Brad was going to school at Cornish and my friend John Silverman was going there, I basically kept my drums there. I played for some classes. I got paid to play for Jay Clayton's vocal jazz classes.
Wow, that's cool.
And then Jerry Granelli was the drum teacher there.
Oh yeah.
And Julian Priester was there.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Jim Knapp, a great trumpet player, composer. Hadley Calaman, a tenor player.
That's a.
It was a great place.
Cool faculty,
musician. So that was sort of my center of my scene the last years that I was in Seattle, and I played a lot with Brad. Brad and I became good friends, and
yeah.
And Briggan came to school later.
Briggan is later. Okay, cool.
He came like a year or two after Brad was in school. Briggan came. Yeah.
When did you then decide to move to New York? What was the trigger? What was the moment when you said, like, okay, maybe it's time to go, or like?
I think I was kind of getting to the point where I was playing with the people that I wanted to play with in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And they're all great, and many of them are still there and playing. Mm-hmm. And but I felt like This was, by the way, this is right before when I moved to New York was maybe a month before Bill Frisell moved to
Oh
Seattle.
yeah, Bill is. Really? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he was in
exactly.
New York. I mean, he lives in
Yeah,
New York now, but he moved to Seattle.
moved to Seattle for 20 years or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and right before, like 3 months before I moved, Wayne Horvitz
Oh
moved
yeah.
from New York to Seattle. So,
Oh
so if my time schedule would have been moved by like 6 months, I maybe would have stayed there a little longer because those guys kind of made a whole new interesting scene there for a while.
definitely. Yeah.
But I did get to play with Wayne for some while I was there, and he was like, "Yeah, you should go.
Yeah.
You should go." So I think I just knew that the pool of musicians with whom I was playing and was going to get to play with was fairly small in Seattle, although really good.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to experience a bigger pool of players, and I knew that was the only place that I wanted to go. People would say, "Oh, why don't you go to LA?" And it's like I didn't.
You're
There
not.
was
Yeah.
no there was no temp. Like I couldn't even imagine going there for
Yeah.
the music that I was interested in.
Yeah.
So
But
that's what.
do you remember, like, did you when you came to New York, like, did you know any guys, or do you remember like this first experience, how this was? Because for me, like, I imagine it's like scary. You were, I don't know, probably like coming there, like, what do you do now? Like, how did
Yeah.
you, how did it work, like for you?
Well, that's the other thing in retrospect. It would have been easier to move when I knew a few more people there already.
Yeah,
Because I think I was out of all those people that we're
the
talking
f-
about,
the
I
first,
was the
or
first.
oh,
And
wow,
because like Jim Black and Chris
Jim Black
Speed
came later, or
and Andrew, they were all in Boston. They all went
I
to
didn't know. Oh
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I think
Yeah,
Andrew. I can't remember if Andrew finished school in Boston or he might have stopped. Um, but they were all kind of in Boston. Also, Kung Fu.
oh yeah,
Uh, so they kind of moved to New York as a unit.
yeah. Hmm.
So they had, and they also had music school. A lot of Boston people that came to New York. So there was a kind of community for them. When I moved, I didn't really have it. I knew one person, Andy Laster,
Oh yeah, Andy. Oh yeah, I love that.
and I
Yeah.
met him in Banff in 1986.
Oh
So
okay.
I knew him, and that was, I mean, I that was basically it, So,
Hmm.
so it was tough. Yeah, the first year was really, really hard.
So did you just
Uh,
like start playing jam sessions, or just playing with people,
yeah,
or
a little bit, but I hated that because the jam sessions were always really super straight ahead stuff.
standards kind of? Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't really, that's not what I was coming to New York for. I was coming because New York was just beginning to have this scene where
Downtown kind
styles
of.
were,
Yeah,
people were crossing over the boundary
yeah.
lines and making these new music. So I was kind of interested in, and those jam sessions were not interested in that. So, but you'd maybe meet one person, and then there were a lot of sessions at people's places
Oh yeah.
at that time.
Okay.
So then you'd go to one of those sessions, and there'd be a drag maybe, but there might be one person there that you could maybe your sensibility kind of hooked up with them, and then eventually, it was very, very, very word of mouth.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's why
Okay.
that's why it was so hard. I did give a tape which Wayne Horvitz recommended. He said you should make a tape, like a little demo tape of
Hmm.
yourself, and give it to Joey.
To
Because
Joey Baron.
yeah, because
Oh
Joey,
wow.
because Joey might be asked to do something, he might be
Oh,
busy,
that's smart. Wow, that's
and
cool.
that's not my nature to do that at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, but
It
still,
was
yeah.
so hard for me to do that, but I did it. And I went to the old knitting factory just to hear Frizzell
I with
play
Kermit and
with
probably were.
Kermit, and I
Yeah.
went. Yeah, I went to the dressing room there. That was before I had ever played at that knitting factory, And I introduced myself, and I did have a little bit of a, entree from Wayne, because he knew all those guys.
Okay.
And they enjoyed, said, "Oh yeah, Wayne told me you were gonna move here, blah blah blah." And also Bobby Previtt
Oh
helped me
yeah.
out a lot too, because I met Bobby in Seattle when he came out to play with Wayne once.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. They were playing. Yeah.
And he was very encouraging too. So I gave a tape to Joey, and Bobby knew I was there, and then I actually
Amazing.
got work. I got work from that way through Joey.
Wow.
So that also helped me, and that was I'll never forget that from both of those guys. They were both really, really supportive.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Because like you guys kind of then formed like when I checked, especially your first 10 years in New York, like with all these guys, you still keep playing with them, with most of them, but like you kind of formed this community with people like, I don't know, Erik Friedlander and Marc Feldman and all these amazing bass players and, all these guys. So I guess that's kind of how it got formed. And especially the Dave Douglas quintet. Like, how did you meet Dave? I wanted to ask you that because those convergence, I listened to Convergence the other day, and it's just like, man, there's one tune. What's this? I wrote this one down, but like, yeah, Goodbye Tony. You remember that song?
Uh, I
And
remember.
Bilbao's song, the drums, man, that
I
you play.
remember the title. I would remember it if I heard it. I can't pull it out right now, but yeah.
Jesus, what you're playing there, it's just like, I listened to it yesterday. I was like, damn, what is this? But I wanted to ask you, how did you meet Dave and end up in that quintet of his? Like,
I don't remember where I met Dave, to tell you the truth, exactly. Uh,
because did
but
he play with Brett already in the Tiny
well,
Bell or
no,
not
but
yet?
check this out. So Brad moved. So I lived in New York for a year. Then Brad came, and he I think the first few months that he was in New York, a couple months, he lived with Andy Laster, actually. Brad did.
Blaster. Okay.
And then whatever, the housing situation there was changing, and through Andy, we found out that Dave and his then wife Nabila, they lived in this house, and I don't know, I guess there was some roommate situation. I mean, they had their own floor. The two of them had their own floor, but then there was another floor. And so Brad and I moved into that house together.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's cool.
And it was only a block away from where I was living. So yeah, so Brad and I moved into this house that Dave lived in.
Okay.
And that was really, that I consider kind of the beginning of stuff for me starting to take off in the city. Because then we played with Brad all the time. I mean, Brad and I played with Dave in the basement. And then Dave had this band, the band New and Used.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that one. Yeah.
Which was with Kermit and
Kermit, yeah.
Marc Feldman and Rainey. So we would listen to those guys, and so it was right around that same time that Dave wanted to start the string group.
Mm.
And that's when he, asked me to do that. That was like
Wow.
So that was definitely after we were living together. So
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting.
yeah.
Cool.
So that was the beginning of that, and that's how I met Erik Friedlander and Feldman as well.
Yeah. That's how cool. I love to hear it because I listen to this record so much,
Yeah.
and it's so cool to hear
No,
how this kind of blends together.
The thing, to me, the most interesting thing about all that is that there was a community of players from different backgrounds, slightly, like Feldman. I mean, you should do an interview with Marc Feldman if you haven't,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. No.
his background is fascinating. His background
He's
is,
classical, right?
yeah, but then he went to Nashville
Really? I didn't
and
know.
played
Wow.
country music.
Marc Feldman. Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
he
that.
was like
Wow.
in Loretta Lynn's band.
Really?
Yeah. He was in. Yeah, and then from there came to New York, So he and was also into jazz. Like, so he brought all this stuff. Mark Dresser, who was the first bass player in the string
Yeah.
group, comes from a a classical background, but also like a contemporary classical. You know, he'd already been playing with Braxton. I mean, he came.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He had this amazing experience of kind of already playing this music that was composed and improvised,
And
kind of
improvised.
blended.
Yeah. This idea. Yeah.
Erik Friedlander came from a classical background, who was starting to get into jazz and improvising.
Oh, wow.
You know, I came from a much more jazz background. Um, Dave came from a jazz background, but was interested in prog rock and
Yeah.
classical. And you know, Dave's Dave. You know, he's got a
Yeah.
million influences on Balkan music. So all this, and
Yeah.
so all these musicians in New York that you're talking about, including, you know, these guys from Seattle that came a little bit later,
Yeah.
they were all interested in making music that was not specifically this or that or that, but
Yeah.
bringing all these influences in.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of, it was a time where that was happening. That group of people were doing that. And I mean, it's still happening in different ways, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But how did you, let's say you guys combined like these compositions like 10 minutes long, you know, like specifically with of Dave's, like, and they combine all these classical elements and odd rhythms and stuff like that. If you get a lead sheet like that, let's say, I'm really curious about it, which is probably written like 3/4 3/3 3/4 improv section, again, like some odd metered structure. How did you approach that, like playing wise?
I guess it just depends on the piece. I mean, there might have been specific sections where, I mean, take like a Dave Douglas composition from that time period. He might have wanted something specific in that zone, in a zone, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, with him, that would happen more often than with some other composers. Like he would say, "Yeah, I want this to be like this," but he wouldn't tell you what to play. But it would be
More to
within
go.
in a context. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to the drums, orchestrating on the drum set again, because
Yeah.
you know you have a million choices, right? Or you have so many combinations of things you can play at a given time. So some of that is, you know, listening to what's going on with the rest of the instruments,
Yeah.
and some of it's your own personality, like how do you choose to express, you know, yourself there.
Yeah.
Like two drummers are not going to play it the same way, and
Yeah. Definitely.
that's the cool thing. But but during this time I was listening to Tom a lot, and I got a lot of inspiration from him on how to navigate that kind of music, because
Yeah.
I still think he's the master at it.
Yeah. I mean, you took us. I will just like make a small diversion, like to Malaby's a dope, right? I mean, I've played with Tony quite a lot, and with Tom also actually. But like, how did you guys for that session, especially? There's two drums there, right? And you guys sound like one drummer with 8 limbs. But did you guys talk about how to do it or no? Because like
No,
it sounds
I don't
so
think
fucking natural, man. It's like amazing that
I don't
record,
think we
seriously.
talked at all about it. I mean, there were times in the arrangement where it was only I was supposed to play and only Tom was supposed to play. Like,
Okay.
you know, like we'd switch off. But when we
Yeah.
played together, I don't think we ever.
Wow.
And you know, I think, I mean, for me, that was a both a treat and a learning experience, and I was like, you know, just intimidated every time we played together.
Yeah. Yeah.
because Tom
Wow.
because he's so strong. You know,
Yeah.
Tom is so strong, and it's sort of. I mean, I learned a lot from that. Like his conviction and what he plays at all moments. It's like it's like a rock. You know, it's just a
Yeah.
rock. So, and I think part of it, like just personally, the way I play a lot more like sort of, you know, up here a lot of
Hmm.
times. Like in his thing has a stronger bottom to it,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. You're like lots of
in general. So it worked. It worked. Like I was kind of able to apply it a little bit more, almost like a percussionist playing the drum set.
Yeah,
In,
yeah.
in a way, I think just the way we approach playing music, I think it worked that way. But he definitely didn't need me there. I can tell you that.
No, but you sound like you listen to the record and you're like nicely panned, right? And
Yeah,
then there's like a bass drum, and then from the other side you hear a snare. It's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like damn people, it's really incredible. It's like one of those rare records with two drums where you actually are not overdoing it in a sense of playing over each other
Yeah.
or whatever. It
No,
just sounds
I think that's
so.
I think that's the thing. Like if you're playing with another drummer,
Yeah,
I mean, I always like drum music where things are interlocked, where the parts are specific. They're simple parts, but
yeah,
all put together, and so it's sort of the same idea, like that you're just doing it on the fly. Like I'm not gonna, always do what he, try to
yeah,
somehow
sure.
make it
Yeah,
layered. I mean, there's a great power and fun in just playing the same thing together. You just get like double,
yeah, yeah.
and that's cool too. And there are times when we
Makes
did
sense.
that when we played live because we did like a couple tours with that
Oh,
band.
you
And
did tour with that band. I didn't know
yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I don't know if there are any recordings of it,
Oh, I
but
have to check it out on YouTube. Okay.
yeah, ask
Oh,
Tony.
cool.
I mean, I don't know. He would probably know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I would love to hear to compare what happened.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask you two more things. Like, you played like I checked with the bass players you played, right? I think you played with who's who of creative bass players since 1990. So Mark Dresser, Drew Grass, Mario Pavone, Mark Elias. I will not even name them because does I mean, of course it does, I guess, but does the nature of your playing change with the bass player and how with a different bass player? Like Drew plays differently than Elias, for instance. Like, how does this change for you, for instance?
Yeah, I think it. I mean, at the core, it doesn't change that much. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna play the way I play, right?
the way you play, yeah,
Um, and I might play with the bass, like all those bass players. I was, we were able to play together and make good music. I'm sure there are going to be bass players that are going to play with me. They're going to be like, yeah, that's cool, but I'm not really, like I don't.
no,
No, it's look,
no, come on.
no, I'm
Uh,
serious. Whatever, vice versa. Like there's, not you can't. That's another thing. It takes a long. Sometimes it takes as a side person who does a
yeah,
lot of side person work. It takes a long time to realize not everybody is going to like you.
okay,
And
okay,
it's okay because
okay,
you can't please everybody. You have to
yeah.
be the way that you play, and people are going to like it, and some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to be, yeah, that's okay. So I think, yeah, all those players they're all unbelievable.
Unique personalities and
Yeah,
everything.
and and some of them, yeah, they just they do slightly different things and different. It depends on the piece and the feels, and
Yeah,
there's certain feels that I can play really well and others that I don't play so well. The same goes for bass players. There's some that they just, they eat up. There's others that it's not right in their wheelhouse, so you kind
yeah.
of, you sort of help each other.
But do
Yeah.
you know, like you as a drummer, I just want to like some people play up more up front, like ahead of the beat, some more mellow. You know already now, like or no? Do you?
I mean, people talk about that a lot, and I think I don't think it's that conscious, but I think there are people. Yeah, I think like I tend at certain tempos, I definitely tend to play on top of the beat. On certain
Mhm.
tempos, I tend to play
Yeah,
behind the beat, and it's not because of it's more like the tempo for
yeah.
me.
It's not the yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like that. I play that way all the time. Um, um, I never thought about that so much with any of those bass players.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, they're
It's
like,
it's a little different if you're playing a real specific, like a proscribed groove. Then
oh yeah,
I think it gets into that area more. Like if you listen to like, Sly and Robbie,
yeah,
it's just it's remarkable, like how
oh yeah,
far behind the beat, that Robbie is playing
yeah,
all the time, but that doesn't move. Like they're almost playing like two
yeah,
different,
yeah, yeah.
almost two, but the way it fits together is just magic. And I think you notice that a lot more when you're playing some kind of
More
repetitive groove.
groove thing. Yeah,
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 at least for me. I don't think
yeah,
about it too much when I'm playing. I mean, if something's really like rushing, you know,
yeah,
I can hear that, and sometimes you're like, well, let's just let it go, or sometimes
yeah. Sure, of course. Yeah,
pull it back. But then sometimes
yeah.
you end up fighting if you're trying to pull it back. And the worst feeling in music is when to me, is when you're fighting.
With the bassist.
Yeah, I mean
Oh
that's
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
terrible. It's no fun. It makes
yeah.
for bad music, and I mean maybe there are other fights that can go on, but that's not a good one. You know.
That's a good. Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask you. I saw you play with everyone. It's like how it feels for you as a drummer, to play with all these amazing guys. Like how does it change for you? Like, but it's yeah. I can imagine like all you guys are so good. It's just blends together in one dough, and
Yeah,
it's yeah,
I don't think it's
it's
any different than any other kind of relationships. Having a
yeah,
conversation. If you
yeah.
enjoy the person and you like the person, like our conversation, I'm having a great time. And it's not going
Me
to be the
too. Yeah,
same as if somebody else, well, I'm talking with somebody else and it's asking
yeah,
me the same questions. It's going to be a little bit different, and you kind of
yeah. Definitely. Yeah, that's
negotiate the nuance as you go along. And that's the beauty of it. For me,
yeah.
I mean,
No, no, I agree completely. Yeah,
I'd be
I
interested to hear, other drummers talk about
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
For sure.
I'm talking next week to Matt Wilson, and I really would like, I talked with Ben and Allison and Chris of the bass players and
Yeah.
some other guys. It's interesting for me to talk now with the drummers who, you guys who you played with them, and just to
Yeah.
see this philosophy behind it. I really love that, like to
Yeah.
see. I
I
was
think
always
that
fascinated by that.
I think one other thing about the bass players, it depends a lot, and drummers too. It depends a lot about your listening background and your playing background. So some bass players in the jazz world that I played with didn't have a big background of playing funk music,
Hmm.
or they didn't listen to that much of that,
You can feel that, right?
and some do, and you can tell the ones that do and the ones that don't.
That's so
So
cool. Yeah.
there's that aspect of it, which changes the way, you know
Yeah.
which changes certain things.
Yeah.
um so yeah, and you can
Yeah.
kind of find that out pretty quickly when you're playing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, as a guitar player, I mean, okay, I never will get to experience that because you're as a drummer and bass. That's something it's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's a marriage. It has to work,
yeah.
otherwise it's
It's a fun related special thing, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just want to ask you one more thing, Michael, this so that I don't take too much of your time. Like one of my favorite bands is the Thomas Chapin trio that you guys did. Like I listened the other day to Newport 1995 footage. I don't know if you've seen that
I've
with
seen, yeah.
Mario.
My son makes fun of my haircut all the time on
You
this.
look at it's and you have like an interesting shirt also, and like it's okay, it's fashion, but
Yes, exactly.
you guys are killing it. I mean, it's just it was it must have been such an amazing band to see live. I just wanted to ask you, like, you played with this group quite a long time, right? It was a working unit. Like, how did you guys meet, and how did you guys develop like that? I mean, it sounds amazing. All those Nightbird and all these records sounds just like.
Well, we played a lot. Yeah, we did play a lot in the time that we played together. Thomas and Mario knew each other already from Connecticut.
Aha, okay.
And the trio had already existed. In the first incarnation was with Steve Johns on the drums.
Okay.
So they made one Knitting Factory. In fact, I think it's the first Knitting Factory CD of all. The first time they put one out. That was that trio.
Oh, wow.
And then shortly thereafter, Steve had some conflicts before this big tour. I'd subbed a couple of times for Steve, and he had a conflict that came up right before this 3-week tour.
Oh, shit. Okay.
It was a little short notice for Thomas. So Thomas calls me and he's like, yeah, what are you doing for the next 3 weeks? This is in 1990, beginning of 1992. And I'm like,
92. Wow. Okay.
Nothing. It'd be kind of like if someone called me now for a 3-week tour. What are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was it. So I went on this tour and we played like 20, I think we played 19 gigs in 21 nights or something.
In Europe or?
No, in the States.
In the States? Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was like a bus tour around the States.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay. And that was it. After that, I was in the trio. Oh. So, yeah. And then we did a lot of touring, Knitting Factory.
Yeah.
Touring and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, that trio, I just wanted to ask you, it sounds just like, especially when you see the live footage, it's, it's so burning, like with Thomas jumping around and all that. And it's like, and you guys are just like burning it behind there. It's like,
it was a good live. It definitely was a very live group. Like,
yeah,
I don't think we really made a good record in the studio to the very last one.
Which one is that? That's the
Sky Piece.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And that's the last one we did, and then like a few months after that, he found out that he's sick, and then it was a whole another year of going through treatment and blah blah. So, but yeah, it was a lot. It was an amazing group because it wasn't like it. I mean, Thomas was a performer, but he wasn't just doing that to get over. Like, he literally played that way every time he played. Yeah. But he also was quite aware of the fact that he had played for a bunch of years in Lionel Hampton's band, and he was the music director.
I didn't know.
So he sort of learned the showmanship from Hamp. And so he definitely was aware of that. Yeah. And plus, he just had amazing energy. I mean, the music was high energy.
Yeah, he was a great player. Yeah.
The audience could always get, if nothing else, they would get that from it, so.
Yeah. It's part of the act, definitely. I mean, I guess.
Oh, yeah. No, my parents would come and see us, wow, you guys have so much energy. Like, that would blow them away. Like, well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool, man. That's so cool.
But yeah, it was great. It would have been interesting to see how it would have evolved,
Yeah, but you guys, it would be amazing because you still play like so many groups that are like with Erik Friedlander. That's Broken Arm, Nighthawks Think. It's still happening. Yeah. So that's like what, 10 years at least, right?
Yeah.
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 Like,
yeah, sure. So, I mean, there are people that still.
Like many long-term.
Yeah, and Mario I still play with.
Yeah. So that's so cool.
Playing with him at the end of this, in like 2 weeks up in Connecticut. Like a gig that it's like I've had like hardly any. This is maybe will be my like second gig and.
Yeah.
Since March.
Bad days, I know. Yeah. I just, Michael, one last question. Like, I haven't noticed. Like, did you ever do a record as a leader?
Not yet.
And how come and why not? Like,
Yeah, I don't think you have time. I don't think we have enough time for that answer. And I don't know if, I think I'd have to pay you a lot more per hour for that answer, if you know what I'm saying. Um,
I mean, do you write music and like or
yeah, I mean, I've made attempts at it throughout the
okay?
years. I have a lot of things, little bits and ideas, flotsam and jetsam,
Oh, okay.
floating around. Yeah, it's something that I want to do before I pass away. Hopefully I'll make it
At
happen
least
before that happens.
at least a couple, man. At least a couple.
Well, that's it's one of the I think it's one of the challenging things for people involved in a lot of their music. It's like to okay, anything that I put out is not going to be a definitive like this is my. It'll be like one aspect of what I want to present, but
Definitely. Yeah.
it's sort of it's like there are a million things that I'd want to do. So maybe I should just pick one of them and start doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would. Yeah. I would look so much forward to this.
Yeah,
So
well, I'm glad. That's one. That's good. That's
that's
one.
one. I'll buy it on Bandcamp. It's something. It's $7, man, or 8. I don't know. So it's something.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely something I want to do.
Cool.
So
Okay.
how that what it ends up being is not quite sure.